Hello, my name is Ben Barber, aka Plainbound, and today I'm going to go over some of my custom Magic the Gathering commanders for the A Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones series. First of all, I'm going to go through all 16 images that I've created and kind of explain how you'd use them, what they do, what they cost, and why I chose all this stuff for them. And then after, I will go and kind of give you some information about how you can create your own cards. It can be commanders or it can be any other cards in Magic the Gathering, and then you can also share them on different sites. Arya Stark, Faceless Woman. So Arya Stark is a legendary creature, human noble rogue that costs 1 blue and black. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, surveil 1. And surveilling means that you can look at the top card of your library and either put it back on the top or you can put it in your graveyard. So she's really good at getting stuff into your graveyard. And then her second ability is pay 3. Arya Stark, Faithless Woman becomes a copy of a target creature in a graveyard with converted mana cost X or less, except its name is Arya Stark, Faceless Woman. It's legendary in addition to its other types, and it has this ability. Put a 1/1 counter on this creature. X is equal to this creature's power. So Arya Stark can become a bunch of different things in graveyards. So first of all, she's really good at seeing graveyards and then becoming creatures that maybe your opponent has in their graveyard or you have in your graveyard, which is really good with the surveil ability. So she can be a mill, which is you put the top card of a library into the graveyard. She can be a good discard, or even a self-mill with surveil. It is nice that she can do this multiple times without tapping because of that X is equal to this creature's power. So this creature, meaning Arya, so when you first activate her ability without any +1/+1 counters on her, she's a 2/2. So that means she can get a mana cost of 2 or less and make that who she is. I think this is a very good representation of who Arya Stark is, because in the books and in the show, she goes to the House of Black and White and learns how to change her face and learns how to be other people and learns really how to be a rogue. So I think even these Dimir colors, Dimir meaning blue and black, are really good to show how she can be a little sneaky and really encapsulates what a rogue is. And that's why I chose the blue and black colors for her. Not only that, but because those colors have really good support in self-mill, other people mill, and discard as well, if you wanted to take this deck in any direction. Next we have Brand the Broken, who is 1 white, black, green. A legendary creature, human noble, with Defender. Defender means that this creature cannot attack, but can block. And it also has, you may choose to not untap Brand the Broken during your untap step. Then at your upkeep, create a 1/1 black raven with flying if Brand the Broken is tapped. And then he also has a tap. Take control of target creature for as long as Brand the Broken remains tapped. Brand the Broken, I think, is a great representation of who the character is in the show and in the books, because Bran can't really do much for himself except he can sleep by tapping, basically, and control other creatures and other animals. Like in the show and in the books, he controls his wolf, and he sometimes even gets visions of a 3-eyed raven coming to find him, which is where the ravens come in. I think this is a really cool deck built around... It could be a really cool deck built around theft and untapping and tapping synergies. I think that it's a little bit harder to do in these Abzan colors, which are the white, black, and green colors. But I think it's a very interesting approach to figure out, hey, how can I do this with this commander? Brienne the Beauty, 3 and a white. She's a legendary creature, human knight, with vigilance and first strike. Vigilance meaning that she can attack and not tap herself. And first strike meaning that she deals damage before regular damage is dealt. She can get around some certain abilities, but You probably already know that if you've been playing Magic for a long time. She also has commander creatures you control have, if this creature be dealt combat damage, prevent that damage and draw a card. It's pretty good. White card draw is very rare in Magic the Gathering, so she'd be very good in that, especially in Commander. She also has Partner, which means you can have 2 commanders if both have Partner. So Brienne really, in the books and the show, is with Jaime a lot of the times, and then she goes with Podrick Payne. So she's really always accompanying somebody. So that's why she has the partner mechanic. She's also very good at defending and a very good fighter. So she has combat damage whenever she always gets back up after a fight. So that's why I've given her, if she's dealt combat damage, just prevent it to commanders you control. So this is really good if you partner up with anybody with partner. None of the creatures that I've created right now have partner, but she does, which means you can partner her with any of the other ones from Commander Legends. Any of the other partners. I think most of them are from Commander Legends. And that's really good for Brienne. Obviously, this is the most known character in all of the A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. Daenerys, Mother of Dragons. She costs 1 red, white, black. She's a legendary creature, human noble, with when Daenerys, Mother of Dragons, enters the battlefield, create Drogon, a legendary 1/1 black dragon with flying and menace, then create Rhaegal, a legendary 1/1 green dragon with flying and trample, and then create Viserion, a legendary 1/1 white dragon with flying and vigilance. So immediately when she comes in, she gets her dragons like she has in the picture around her, and they all have different abilities. So Drogon has menace and flying. So flying means she can get over normal creatures. Menace, which means she can't be blocked by more than one. She has to be blocked by at least 2 creatures in combat. Rhaegal has trample, which means they can get over. If they deal damage that is more than lethal, they deal it to the controller instead. And then Viserion has vigilance, which we've already gone over in Brienne. Another thing that Daenerys has is pay XX and then tap her to put 2 +1/+1 counters on X target dragons. Those dragons gain indestructible until end of turn. So this is really good because she can really embody that dragon tribal as a commander, especially in these 3 colors of red, white, black, and as well as she grows them over time. So she puts the counters on the creatures and they grow over time, which is what she does with her dragons in the show and in the books. And she also protects them by giving them indestructible, which is really, really, really good for if you're trying to get some lethal combat damage in or something like that. I think this deck could be really built around +1/+1 counters as well as dragon tribal, getting as many dragons on the field and then paying into that to grow them a little bit bigger and give them all indestructible, dealing more damage over time. And then she also puts dragons on the field, which is amazing for just a 4-drop commander. So this is the only commander with 2 sides to them. The first side is Lady Catelyn Stark, which costs 1 in blue, a legendary creature, human noble, and she has the ability tap her and sacrifice Lady Catelyn Stark. So you kill her and put her in the graveyard from the battlefield, and then another target creature you control gains indestructible and lifelink until end of turn. This is really good if you want to save one of your other creatures, and you can gain a little bit of life from them, as well as getting Lady Catelyn Stark in the graveyard, which I think is a really good thing for her next ability for Disturb, which is blue and then Orzhov, which Orzhov is that colored mana that you can pay either white or black to cast. And Disturb is you may cast this card from your graveyard transformed for its Disturb cost. And when Lady Catelyn Stark comes back from the dead, she turns into Lady Stoneheart, which is something that the show didn't really get into, but she is in the books, and I really like how they portrayed her in the books, because she can't speak. She has this very stoicness about her, and she can even bring things back. So she has lifelink and menace, which lifelink means you can, whenever they deal combat damage, they gain the controller life, and menace, which we've already gone over with Daenerys. And also, when you cast her back, she has each card that you can cast from your graveyard costs 1 less for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. So you cast Lady Stoneheart, you sacrifice her, get her into the graveyard, then once you get Lady Stoneheart back from the graveyard, anything that you're casting from your graveyard costs as much less as you've cast Lady Catelyn Stark from the command zone. This can be really good if you are playing a deck centered around this disturb ability, or even flashback, or there's so many other things you can do from the graveyard. There's some blitz, there's some other stuff too that I think would be really good, and I really haven't seen much support for disturb, so I really wanted to make a commander that reflected that, and I think Lady Catelyn Stark really does embody what that means to reanimate from the graveyard. The next commander I created was Lady Sansa, the little songbird, which is 3 and a white, legendary creature, human noble. And she has creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. This is a propaganda, or a ghostly prison that is in the command zone, which is a crazy thing to think about, but it is on a creature, so it can be removed a little bit easier. Her second ability is 1 and Simic, which is those colors right there, the green and blue. And when you do that, it changes the target of a target spell or ability with a single target. So, if, say, you cast Lady Sansa and somebody goes, and she's on the battlefield, and somebody goes, I want to get rid of Lady Sansa. So they cast a Path to Exile on Lady Sansa, which is a spell that exiles a target creature. Instead, Lady Sansa can pay to and get that spell off of her and change the target to maybe one of your opponent's creatures, or maybe one of your own creatures if you wanted to do something like that. So I think this is a very interesting one. I'm not sure if it's the best use for Lady Sansa, because she doesn't really do that much, but I think she does deflect a lot in the books and in the show. Really putting her problems on other people, and not, even though I love Sansa as a character, I don't think she deals with things in the best of ways. And things kind of happen to her. Even though this might not be the best one, and I've gotten some feedback from that, which I'll share later. I think this would be a great deck to make for stacks players, which is kind of controlling the entire board, making sure they are in control of all situations, characters, combats. And it could also be a really good pillow fort strategy, where you can incentivize people not to attack you, or incentivize people not to do stuff to you, because you have these things on the board that hurt them, or saying, hey, you have to pay extra mana for attacking me. Don't attack me. So ultimately, this is not my favorite card that I've created, and I think it needs a little bit more work. But at the same time, I am happy to see one because I don't think I've seen a commander with this propaganda ability before. This is probably the other most recognized character from the Game of Thrones series, or the books and the show alike. Lord Snow of the Night's Watch, which is based on the character Jon Snow, obviously. And he costs 1 black, green, blue. He's a legendary creature with human warrior with first strike, vigilance, and this is my favorite part, protection from walls and from zombies. So in the show and in the books, he fights White Walkers, which are zombies, and he also climbs the wall and is Lord of the Wall, so he has protection from these things, because he can fight these things. And I just think it's funny that he can have protection from walls, because you don't really see walls a lot in Magic the Gathering, aside from if you're playing a walls deck. And And when Lord Snow of the Night's Watch enters the battlefield, create Ghost, a 2/2 legendary white wolf creature token with Menace. I did like that I made Ghost a white wolf because even though white is not in his color combinations here, Ghost in the shows and in the books is a white wolf that is just different from everybody else, different from his own litter, different from his family, and I think that that's why he's attracted to Snow and brought to Jon Snow. He also has Menace because he's a terror. He can just rip through tons of enemies at once, and I think Menace is a really good way to showcase that. Jon Snow also has other creatures you control enter the battlefield with your choice of a first strike, vigilance, or a +1/+1 counter on it. This is really good when other creatures enter the battlefield because they automatically get one of those three things that you choose. And with the addition of keyword counters from Ikoria, and then it was also reintroduced and redone in New Capenna recently. These three types of counters can do a lot for a creature, especially when they're commanded by Lord Snow. This can be really good with synergies of other tokens and counters. So if you wanted to make a deck similar to Pierre, the Pierre Commander deck from New Capenna, you can do something like that, or you could even just try and work out a keyword situation here. But I think Jon Snow is a very good imitation of that. He's a very good representation of what a leader should be. So when other creatures enter the battlefield, he's basically saying, hey, I'm leading you and I care about you, because that's how he did it in the books and in the show. He cared about even the wildlings that came in, and I think this is just a very good representation of who Jon Snow is and what he does. And I think I chose these colors, black, green, and blue, mostly because he lives in the North. He's the king of the North, basically. Actually, not king of the North. He was asked to be by Stannis, but he's king of the Wall, pretty much. Lord of the Wall. And in Magic the Gathering, there's another creature that is Yorn, who is a snow permanent. No, he's not a snow permanent. He is a snow tribal kind of commander that I think would work really well under Lord Snow. Next, we have another one of my favorites, Melisandre, the Red Priestess, which costs 2 and a red. She's a legendary creature, human cleric, and she partners with Stannis, Azor Ahai Reborn. So Stannis is another card that I'll be showing you in just a minute, and these two work really well. They can both be your commander because they have partner with, and this is different from partner with like the Brienne has, because Brienne can partner with anyone with partner. She can only specifically partner with Stannis. And obviously there's that flavor text there that when she enters the battlefield, a player can search their library for it and put it in their hand and shuffle. Ooh, sorry. But most players aren't going to play Stannis, so you can have somebody shuffle, or you can shuffle your own library, and, her only ability is blue, blue, red. Tap an untapped legendary creature you control. Create an XX black demon creature token with tap. Sacrifice this creature. This creature deals damage to any target equal to its power. X is equal to the power of the tapped legendary creature. This works really well with Stannis. Because Stannis can, and I'll get into that in a minute, but she can tap Stannis to create these black demons, which is very reminiscent of the show and the book, when Melisandre gives birth to a demon that kills Renly. As well as just all these different types of death and murder and burn damage that Melisandre basically does. And burn is a mechanic in Commander and in Magic in general that deals non-combat damage, which I think is very reminiscent of the Red Priestess, because that's what she does. She deals damage in fire and in flame. Well, as you can see in the picture behind her, she's burning the Temple of the Seven. And then I will move over to Stannis, because he partners very well with our good friend Melisandre. Stannis Azor Ahai Reborn is 2 white-black legendary creature human noble with first strike. He also partners with Melisandre. And Stannis Azor Ahai Reborn gets +1/+0 for each demon you control. This is good, because if we look back over here at Melisandre, she makes demons, and whenever you make a demon, she taps Stannis basically, and Stannis gets a little bit bigger, and when Stannis gets a little bit bigger, she can tap him again and make an even bigger demon. So it's kind of recursive in this way, that she's feeding off of Stannis' energy, and Stannis is growing bigger, and they're just making something big here. And in the books, it's never really explained, because obviously George R.R. Martin has not finished the series, which I'll get into another topic about that later. And in the series, he does do this, and I think my favorite part of this whole card right here is the flavor text at the bottom. There is no creature on earth half so terrifying as a truly just man. This is a quote that Stannis says. Actually, I can't remember who says it. I think it's Stannis or it's Tyrion, one of the two. I'll have to re-find that, because I found all these quotes from the books. And I think it's really funny, because Stannis he comes off as this really truly just man who is very religious, and then he does all these things like kill his own brother, and summon demons. And I think these are very funny cards that go together and can be a really, really, really fun deck to just build around. So I would actually really like somebody to build this 4-color deck, and see what kind of trouble we can make with it. As well as, these don't have to be partnered together. They can just be one or the other too. So even though it says partner with, you don't have to have that partner, which I think is kind of cool. Next we have Queen Regent Cersei. 1 black, red, and green. A legendary creature, human noble. So most of these are human nobles, if you haven't seen, because all the humans in Game of Thrones are nobles. It's a show about gaming of thrones. Everyone taking thrones from each other. Queen Regent Cersei has Ward 2, which means you have to pay 2 extra mana if you target her with an ability. Otherwise, that ability or spell is countered, which is really good, because Cersei has this kind of shield around her all the time, where she can always be like, nope, if you don't do this, then you don't get to do it. And I think is really cool. Also, when she enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 blue and white human advisors. Cersei always has her little pack of advisors and spiders, like Varys or Littlefinger, around her at all times, that she can use in certain ways, like her next ability. Sacrifice another creature. You become the monarch. So she has this really good monarch synergy, where she sacrifices her own people, which she does in the book. She's like, oh, nope, you're gone. Now I'm the queen. Now I can be who I want to be, and I can be in charge. Which, I mean, granted, that's pretty awesome. And I think it works really well in these colors, and in Magic the Gathering especially, because this is like a monarch engine on you, and you can use this as a political tool to be like, hey, if you do this for me, I'll let you keep monarch, or else I'm going to take monarch at instant speed, and you can't do anything about it on your turn. Because monarch basically means that you can draw a card at the end of your turn, which gives you really good card draw, especially for players who don't get it, like white players. But I think Cersei is a very fun political tool, as well as some synergies with monarchs, because sometimes there are cards with monarch that say, oh, if you are the monarch at your upkeep or at the end of your turn, you get XYZ. And I think this would be a really fun deck to build around as well. Next up is Robb Stark, King of the North, who costs 1 red, green, white. He's a legendary creature, human noble. With creatures tokens you control have vigilance. When Robb Stark, King of the North attacks, all other attacking creatures get double strike until end of turn. When Robb Stark, King of the North blocks, all other blocking creatures get +2/+2, and first strike until end of turn. Okay. This one, I think, my personal opinion, is way too overpowered, but I wanted to build Robb Stark anyway, the way he is. So he's in these colors, first of all, because I think these colors generate a very true and regal stance amongst the others. Naya is what it's called, and Naya is really all about how can we build up our board. So that's why we have the creature tokens that we control have vigilance, because I think Robb Stark is going to generate a lot of creatures, especially in these colors. You can add different cards in there that can create tokens, and when you do, you can use them to your advantage because they all have vigilance. And then when Robb Stark attacks, every other creature that you control, even creature tokens, they all get double strike, which is even, you deal double the damage, and you deal it in 2 different forms, in first strike damage and in regular damage, which I think is pretty overpowered if you can keep Robb Stark on the field. And then when he blocks, they all get +2/+2, keeping them alive a little bit, because Robb Stark is a great military leader as well in both the books and the show, where he is able to even capture Jaime Lannister, or even make a smart retreat like he is in the second ability where he blocks, which I think is a very good tactic for a commander, even though it might seem a little bit overpowered. I have some other things that I've gotten feedback on about that as well, which I can probably share a little bit later, or I can even link it later in the description. Now, this is probably my favorite commander out of all of these, just because of what he could do. Sam the Slayer is 1 black-green, legendary creature, human soldier with lifelink and protection from zombies. Obviously, the protection of zombies comes from the Lord Snow we saw earlier, as well as he was the first person to ever kill a White Walker zombie with the obsidian dagger given to him by Jon Snow, which I think is pretty funny. Even though he might not need the protection from zombies, I think it's kind of funny that he has it. His second ability is, whenever you gain life, create a food token and scry 1. So Sam is the type of character who's always like looking for something good to eat, and it's really awesome to see that. And I also have this life in there as well, because Sam is going at the end of the book series, or in the books as right now, because Sam is being shipped to the Citadel with Master Aemon to learn how to be a maester or a cleric to heal people at Jon's orders. So I've given him all this life gain as well. Food is also a really fun mechanic because, 1, Sam likes food. 2, food also gains you life. And it also works really well with his third ability. Sacrifice 3 artifacts and draw 2 cards. So Sam can eat the food, basically, and help you out by drawing cards. Which I think is a really fun commander. And it can be very fun when you combine this with some of the stuff from Throne of Eldraine, which has a lot of food synergies, as well as some of the stuff from the Strixhaven set, specifically the Witherbloom, because of the Grixis colors, the black and green colors, which also has a lot of food synergies as well, because of that life gain aspect and sacrifice aspect. There's obviously a lot of cards that can be made with this. This is probably the card that I might make a deck out of pretty soon, just because I think food is a really funny mechanic. I think this green and black sacrifice to gain life is a really fun mechanic. I just like him a lot, and Sam is one of my favorite characters from the show. So, Sir Davos the Onion Knight costs 2 white, blue. He's a legendary creature, human knight. And when Sir Davos the Onion Knight is tapped to pay a crew cost, the vehicle gets +1/+2 until end of turn. So Davos is specifically a vehicles commander, similar to some of the new stuff in Kamigawa, some of the dwarves made way back when in, I can't remember the set name. But no, there's a lot of vehicles, especially after Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, that allows vehicles to get stronger. And to crew a vehicle, you basically, it has a crew X, and X will be a number, and you have to tap a number of creatures equal to that number, with power equal to or greater than that number, to be able to crew them, making them a artifact creature until end of turn. This can be good to sneak up some heavy blockers or heavy attackers on your opponents. And Davos, whenever he's used to crew, the vehicle gets a little bit bigger. So you're incentivized to crew, and your opponents are incentivized to not let you crew. And he also, his second ability is 1 blue, and target vehicle gains island walk until end of turn. I think this is a lot better than saying target artifact creature, because you're forced into these using vehicles. You're forced into the subtype of vehicles. And island walk means that if an opponent controls an island, they are unable to block the creature. They have to take the damage. I think is really good for Davos because he's a ship master. He sends his ships over, and he gets the name the Onion Knight because he smuggled onions before being Stannis's right-hand man. So I think it's really funny that he's island walking onions to you. And I also just really like that mechanic that we have to use vehicles. We can't use any artifact creatures. And then his third ability is 1 white, blue to put a vigilance counter on target non-creature artifact. Again, this works really well with vehicles because you can put vigilance counters on other types of artifacts, even though why would you? Unless you can make those non-creature artifacts into creatures, like vehicles or things like, animate. What is that? Something animate. That's gonna drive me crazy. But it's a card that allows you to. Oh man, I'll just look it up. Rise and Shine. Rise and Shine MTG. Yes, a card, Rise and Shine, which allows non-creature artifacts to become artifacts until end of turn. And I think this could be really good if you want to do a non-traditional artifact route, especially in this Azorius white-blue color combination and the support from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. You are allowed to kind of create this vehicle's tribal, and it gives you that another way to do that. My next commander is Sir Jaime Kingslayer. Obviously another really famous character from the books and from the show. He costs 1 Boros, which is both red and white, red and then white. And then he is a legendary creature, human knight, with first strike and death touch. Death touch means no matter how much damage he deals, it's lethal. It will kill the creature. And pairing that with first strike means that anyone he gets in combat with will die, because it will always deal his damage first, and most of the time he won't even take any damage, which I think is really cool because he's such a good hand-to-hand fighter. He's such a good knight in combat and stuff like that. And even though he loses his hand, RIP, but I wanted to create Jaime before he loses his hand, because and I think it would be a really nice challenge for me to create Jaime after he loses his hand too. Like, what does that make him? But anyway, his second ability is Sir Jaime Kingslayer attacks each combat if able. This means that if he is on the field, he has to attack. He doesn't have haste, so he can't attack the first time he comes out. but each time after that, he has to attack, which I think is really good, especially if you give him vigilance. He'll attack every turn and then be able to block as well. This is also good because it reflects who he is as a character. He's kind of a hothead as well, who is always willing to fight, and he will always go out to fight. And his third ability, or his second ability after the keywords, is at the beginning of each combat, goad target creature you don't control until Sir Jaime the Kingslayer leaves the battlefield. This is also about an intimidation tactic. He is scary. So whenever he attacks, one creature on your opponent's battlefields won't attack you for until Jaime leaves the battlefield. And that's what that goad means. Goad means that the creature must attack each combat, like Jaime, each turn, but must attack a player other than you. So he strikes that fear into your opponents and into your opponent's creatures, and they have to attack somebody else. They can't attack you, and they have to attack somebody else. And I think that's really, really reminiscent of Sir Jaime. And I have gotten comments about it saying that he needs to be in black, which I would assume, yes, because of the death touch, because of his kind of character. He can be a little bit darker at times, but I felt that he should stay in these two colors because Boros is all about like loyalty and being like that. Even though he turns on his king, he is loyal to himself and loyal to his morals, even though some of his morals might not always be so great. But I'm happy with Jaime. I think I would like to see him a little bit more like a newer card that has come out recently, Karn, Kharn, that does betray, Karn the Betrayer. So I think that's a really good card mechanic, and I would like to see Sir Jaime, when I edit this in the future, modeled after that. Our final card for this Commander Game of Thrones set is Tyrion, Giant of Lannister. And he is 1 blue, red, white, which is just Sky colors, which is basically control, politics. I am the sneaky one, I'm the smart one. And he's a legendary creature, human dwarf noble, because he is always considered a dwarf in the books and in the movies. In the show, I mean. But he's also very smart and very tactical, and he's also a really fun commander that I think would be really nifty to see how other people can create decks around him. His first ability is blue. Each opponent creates a clue token. Clues have a special ability that is 2 and sacrifice it, pay 2 and sacrifice it, and you draw a card. And he's giving this to the opponents, which is a little weird sometimes. But you'll see in just a minute. His next ability is red. Each opponent creates a treasure token. Treasure is used for mana ramp. You can tap it and sacrifice it to put a mana of any color on the battlefield. Basically, he's paying them, like the coin in the picture. And then his third ability is white. Each opponent creates a food token. He's giving food away. He's being generous. Tyrion's always generous with no ulterior motives. Right? No. Because of his fourth ability is Tap It. You create a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with haste and exile this creature at the next end step, where X is equal to the total number of tokens your opponents created this turn. So, you pay into it, you get a ton of your opponents get a ton of tokens, creature, clues, treasures, foods, and you can even synergize this with letting them make other tokens. And then you tap Tyrion at any time, which can be on your turn to deal a ton of damage, or it can be on somebody else's turn to block a ton of damage. And he creates all these people because he's paying them. And they leave him, obviously. But it's all about helping your opponents to help you. And this is what I love. I love this kind of group hug situation here, which is a really fun mechanic. And I think this one, Sam, and and some of the others I would really like to see made into a real commander deck that really embodies what this is. And I know that the creature tokens that he creates, the soldiers, leave. But I think this is very reminiscent of they're only there for the money and the food and the treasure and all those things that he's giving them. And they all leave when the day's done. But you do get to keep your close friends by, which would be the ones that you cast. I just think he's a very, very fun commander, and just a Lannister always pays his debts is a very fun tagline for all these things. Now, I'd really like to hear what you have to say about these commanders. I would love to hear back from you. You can shoot me messages on Discord or down in the comments below, or even join the stream sometimes and talk to me about it. I will say I made these cards on a website called Card Conjurer, which recently sadly got taken down because Wizards of the Coast threatened legal action against them, which I thought was really weird. And I read the thing about it, and I was just like, okay, I'm not into this. That was really bad. And I reached out to the person who created the website and was like, hey, if you ever need anything, just let me know. But I really do appreciate Card Conjurer for all they've done. But there are some other custom card creators out there, like Cardsmith, which is a great one, but it's locked behind a paywall. MTG.design is a really fun one, and so is MTG Nexus. They all have great tools to build your own custom cards, which is really cool. And I'm really glad that these things are out here, because I think it really brings together the whole Magic community. And then after the fact, you can share your creations. So I've made these and put them on Reddit and got a ton of feedback, and I will put my Reddit post in the description so you can all read that. But there's other things that I've done with this. I've sent these pictures to my friends and gotten feedback on it. And one of the other places that I think is a really good opportunity for people who want to create things like this is Instagram and Facebook and other social media accounts. Especially now I follow people online that greatly use this to get feedback and things like that. So I hope you found something really cool and that you can bring back to your own play table, or if you even want to use these, feel free. I really enjoy, as long as you give me some credit. I'm really glad that you guys watched this video, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.